What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of In the Gym with Noel. I am your host, Noel, and today we have a special guest in the building. Want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you so much for having me, my brother. Um, yeah, I'm grateful for the opportunity that you gave me to share this platform with you. I want to say happy weekend to everybody out there and excellent weekend to everyone.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. You got any social media you want to plug? Anything like that?
no, I don't have anything yet,
Okay.
but it's on the come up. Yeah.
Okay. Cool beans. All right. So today's going to be a little different from every other day, every other shoot. So what we're going to do today is I am going to be on the receiving end. I am going to let my friend here take over, and he's going to be asking me questions, and you guys are going to see how I interact with you guys and what it's like to be on the other side. So without further ado, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, brother. Thank you. Let's jump without further ado, let's jump into it. Yeah, today's we're going to talk about some social issues that are very popular to everyone will recognize themselves in the subject that we're going to talk about. So without further ado, let's jump into it. The first question, my brother, I do women respect men based off what the man she is with tolerates?
Oh, wow. Okay. So yes, I believe that a woman will respect a man based off of how far she can push that goalpost. Um, just like and not to compare the two, but just like how when you anyone out there has children, how when you're raising children, children push their boundaries, women do the
Hmm.
same things. I think a woman will try different things with the man that she's with, and depending on how he or she reacts to it, because sometimes women date women, so depending on how their significant other reacts to it, they'll try or they'll recede. So either they'll push on with more ways to, i.e., take away that respect, or they'll recede and go, okay, got it.
Yeah, that's a very interesting take, brother. So, um, you made an analogy to kids, right?
Hmm.
You said that okay, so the kids will try to push that goal post.
Hmm.
So, are you comparing women to kids?
No, not in the sense of women and children are the same on the same wavelength. More so just that the same way that children um, are getting to know you as an individual, as a parent, and
Mhm.
what they are allowed to do to you. I think women do the same thing. I think that women, more so than men, learn at an early age that there are certain things that they can do to get away with. There's certain things they can do to a man and get away with.
Mhm.
And the further you allow them, the more you don't set your boundaries, the more boundaries they're gonna break through, and the more things that they're gonna try. I.e., if you're a man and you go, hey, look, um, I'm only gonna pay for 3 dates. You have to pay for the next three, right? The moment you pay for the fourth date, you're gonna pay for the fifth, you're gonna pay for the sixth, and so forth. But if
Yeah.
you stand on that and you say, "Hey, look, I'm only paying for three," that's it, and you stand on that and you don't pay for anything beyond that three, I think you'll be fine.
So yeah, so if I understand you correctly, brother, so
Mhm.
you mean to tell me, I don't know, cut me, hold me,
You good?
let me know if I'm getting this right. So you saying that okay, so a man has to have principle. Is that so?
Correct.
So a man with principle, we have more respect with the woman he's with, rather than somebody that doesn't have those principles. For example, if a man is with a woman in a relationship and he allow, let not use the word allow, he let the woman that he's with think that it's okay for her to go out
Well,
and like to the club
right.
or even take an example of a woman, like, like, let's say you meet a woman, she's a stripper,
Okay.
and then later on in your relationship, as the relationship get serious,
Mhm.
you tell your significant one that, okay, I don't want you to no longer to be a stripper.
Right.
Would that woman
So,
have more respect towards you because
well,
you let her know that? Or
so I hear what your question is. So I think what the issue is in the beginning, right? So you bring up a great point. So in the beginning, if you meet a young woman and she's a dancer, right? So say she's dancing in chess clubs and so forth,
mm-hmm,
and as the relationship starts to fester and you guys start to become closer, the moment you go, hey, I'm not comfortable with you being a dancer, right? Because you can have those type of boundaries. You can date a dancer and then tell the dancer, hey, I'm not comfortable with other men seeing you.
mm-hmm,
The moment she goes, well, I'm going to keep dancing, what are you going to do if I don't? If you do not leave, that shows her you don't have principles, you don't have standards, and you are allowing her to do whatever from that point on to you. Same goes with women and men. So the moment that the woman goes, hey, I'm not comfortable with you having multiple women, and she continues to sleep with you and doesn't cut off the relationship after you keep continue to sleep with other women, she has now allowed you to do whatever moving forward. So men and women have to have boundaries and respect for themselves before you even go down that path. So a lot of people jump into relationships not understanding the dynamics of those relationships, not understanding each other's boundaries. I myself, I'm comfortable with dating and sleeping with strippers. I will not. Let me rephrase that. I am comfortable with sleeping with strippers. I am not comfortable with dating them. There's a difference. I'll sleep with a stripper. I'll sleep with a sex worker, whatever you want to call it, like an OnlyFans. I don't have a problem with that. I won't date one. I won't marry one. Those are my standards. I can smash you, but I'm not gonna date you.
that's very, very bold.
Well, the reason being is
So
because
let me
let's
ask you this.
yeah.
So do you think that strippers or women that dance or practice those type of, works,
Hmm.
or a prostitute,
Right.
which is the
OnlyFans workers.
oldest,
That's pretty much what they are.
yeah, like, as you know,
Any woman who
prostitution.
exchanges her body parts for money, that's the very definition of being a street worker slash prostitute. I don't. That's literally whole mentalities. I don't care how you look at it.
Okay, so you mean to tell me the oldest work, like the oldest employment out there, because they say
Hmm.
prostitution has been
Right.
with with us forever. So
Hmm.
you mean to tell me that those that practice those type of line of work are not worthy of being married
No, I'm not saying
or
that
being
at all. So what I'm saying
in a
is,
serious relationship?
I, I myself, I will not date or marry one. I am not saying what another man will do,
Hmm.
because there are men in this world who will marry and date them, right? Take them out, show them a good time. We see it all the time. They fly them out on yachts. They're married to them. Look at
Pretty
the
woman.
literally the very definition of the movie Pretty Woman has been playing out over the last 3 decades
Hmm.
right in front of our eyes, and everyone just act like it's not a thing. I don't have no qualms with it. If that's who you into, that's who you like, by all means. It has nothing to do with me. Myself personally, I'm not doing that. Like my standards are different from what other people are doing. And that's the difference. Like as a man, I can't bring myself to say, hey, this is the woman I want to live with and grow old with after I know she just got fucking 75 dicks put into her and I'm dick number 76. You know what I mean? Like I myself cannot be that guy. The moment I walk into a room and there are 30 dudes who are looking at her and are going, I slept with her or I seen her naked, my status has just diminished. So as a man, I will not allow myself to be put in that type of situation. So I just remove myself from the equation and go, I'm not dating you. And no woman has to say, hey, then I'm cool with dating you. She can easily say, well, okay, well, then we're not going any further as well. And that's her prerogative. That's her body that she gets to do. That's her mind. She gets to do whatever she wants. I myself have my own standards.
I hear you, brother. Those are some very good point. Um, Let me redirect the debate or the question that we're talking about in
Mhm.
another sense. Okay, so it's a very interesting that you brought up the fact that okay, it's not only those principles doesn't don't only apply to women, but also men
Mhm.
because if a man is with a woman, the women allow him to date other women.
Right.
You brought that point, which is very interesting. So both the question can apply to both men and women, right?
Uh, the the question of boundaries, yes.
Yes. Okay, it's
Excuse me.
interesting that you brought that boundaries, right?
Mhm.
So let's take for example the Christian point of view of the subject, right?
Okay.
The Christian point of view, the Bible say, um, men love your wife
Right.
as Christ loved the church, and underneath it, it says, women respect your husband,
Mhm.
right? So why is it that okay, even in the Bible, there is I'm guessing that's why we have this question today, this debate today. Why is that even in the Bible there's an emphasis on the fact that women have to respect the husband?
Far as why it's in the Bible, I that part I can't answer because I mean, obviously I didn't write the Bible, so I don't know. But I will say this: I think it's because as far back as society goes, we all know that men have to protect women, and sometimes we have to protect each other from
Provide that
ourselves, right?
security.
As a man, we know what other men are capable of, and women, especially in this day and age, sometimes are oblivious to the actual threats of the world, right? Women jump into relationships with a different agenda, and because they jump into relationships with a different agenda, it sometimes leaves them vulnerable to things that they're not, I wouldn't say not ready for, but more so were never brought up to understand. Because most men, especially in this day and age, are not in the household to raise their sons and daughters. So because the men are not in the household to say, hey, these are the dangers that come along with dating and meeting men from all over the world. Now you are left with taking your perspective from a woman point of view, and women are treated differently in society. If I'm a woman, I'm allowed to have that type of naiveness about me as I move through life. But as a man, we know instantly about the dangers of the world. You know what I mean? Like we go out on these shipping docks and we go out on boats and we go to war. Most women do not do those type of jobs. Most women do not pick up a ruck, grab a rifle, and are on the front line being shot at, blown up, and so forth. Right? Most women go, "Hey, man, let that be the guy thing." Like if you're at a restaurant with your old lady is not the one jumping in front of the bullet. It's the guy that everybody in that room is looking at. It's the men. So we as men understand the differences between um, of the dangers of the world.
Mhm.
So
So if I understand you correctly, you seem to suggest that society expect more of a man as the figure of the protective
right,
figure
but
and also the provider, the guy that provides security. And but let me push back on that. Look,
okay.
because back in the days, that was the mindset where men have to go out there. Let's take the example of war.
Hmm.
If there's you being attacked, countries being attacked by
Right.
another country, the enemy, and they invading your country. For example, in during the Civil War, men were out there fighting, right? They
Hmm.
were out there fighting, providing that that security
Right.
to the family and the women and the children.
Hmm.
That was back in the day. But is that still apply in today's society in the 21st century,
Yes.
where you see women that are, we have women that go, they do pretty much everything that men
Right,
do.
but we're not talking about the exceptions, you know what I mean, to the rule. We're talking about the general rule. Now, there's always the exception, which is the unicorn, right? So, do we have women in the military? Yes. But do we know why women are now able to serve in the military? Like, so most people forget where it all stemmed from. The whole process of, because what ends up happening is people go, well, women up to a certain point weren't allowed to vote. The reason why women weren't allowed to vote is because women weren't allowed to be drafted. So the moment we allow women to vote, right, the moment that law was passed and women were allowed to vote in this day and age, now they also have to serve in the military. But since we in the Western world don't have a draft anymore, right? Once we got rid of the draft, now it's all volunteer. However, if you still look at the dynamics, and if you can even got to, you don't even have to go back that far. If you look at the statistics from the COVID thing, a lot of women who were in the marketplace, the moment they were allowed to go back to work, said, "No, I'm good. I want to stay at home."
Mhm. Is that so?
Send the men back. I'm going to stay at home and raise the kids. Like if you look at the war that's going on right now, or the conflict, or whatever you want to call it, with Ukraine, how many women stood up and was like, "I'm going to fight, guys. We got this. Go sit down with the kids." So we can say there are a few women who will, right? We can always talk about the what ifs, and we all know one woman who's doing this, that, and the third. And kudos to them. We're not trying to take anything away from them. However, the majority of women are not picking up a rifle, going to put on some boots and go down range. That's just the reality. So
That's
it's just to say, to answer your question about men being the protectors and the providers, we still are asked to be traditional men, which are protect and provide for our families. Women are not traditional in this day and age. Like, let's be honest, how many women do we know at our age that are virgins? No kids, but they still want men to be traditional.
that's a very loaded answer, brother.
So,
Um, all right. So from what I understand, the the point of view on the subject is men have to have principle, and wherever they get into the whenever they get into a relationship with a woman, they have to let them know, okay, these are my boundary and these are my principle, and they will get more respect
well,
based on having those boundary, those principle, right?
I mean, yes and no. So the original question, right? Going back to the original question, a woman will respect you based off of what you tolerate, right? And I'm paraphrasing, but it's true, and it's the same thing with the other sex. A woman will respect that man, and a man will respect that woman based off of what we allow each other to put up with. So even though I have principles, standards, boundaries, whatever you want to call it, if the woman that I am with does not, then you'll walk right over her. And if and same for women, if the man that she is with does not have standards, boundaries, and principles, she will walk right over him, walk out the door, and go find someone else to be with. I mean, that's just human nature. No woman in the history of anything has ever stood by a man as she led him. And we can argue the exception all day, but we're talking society has been thriving for over 2,000 years. How many women leaders do we have in place where they've led society?
Somebody will might call you and call you up on that and
I mean, by
throw
all
you a
means,
bunch
like
of name
right,
out there.
right. But that's what I'm saying. We're talking the exception and not the general rule.
I can call Uma Thurman.
Right. But okay. So is Uma Thurman a politician of the United States of America, and did she lead us into anything? How many female presidents have we had? You see what
No,
I'm saying? Like that's
not
the
yet.
thing.
We have not
Right.
have
And
yet.
I'm not that's what I'm saying. I'm not
We
knocking
had
the
a
women
Hillary
who
Clinton. She was
have.
close.
Right. I'm not knocking the women who have stood up for what they are standing up for and what they're fighting for, but those are exceptional women. And I'm not talking about the exception. We're talking general rule of thumb. Most women want to be led. They don't want to lead. Like if you ask most women, do they prefer to work for a man or a woman? They'll tell you quickly, a man. If you ask most women which do they prefer, women friend or men as friends, they'll say men. So if a woman doesn't want to hang out with a woman, or a woman doesn't want to be led by a woman, why would I as a man allow her to lead me? Like they'll tell, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, women will tell you we don't like to be with other women. That's why so many women seek out guys as their friend. They seek to get away from women. They might have a female friend that they might chat on the phone with and tell all their problems, but at the end of the day, when they go to get solutions done, they go to men. Most women prefer to work for men. Most women prefer to have a male as their friend.
Yeah, that's very interesting subject. Everybody have the opinion out there, and you can make up your opinion. This is my broader point of view, and um, I agree with you in some point, some view, but I mean, we can take all day and talk about it and push back on some of the things that you say.
Mhm.
But like I say, everybody gotta have to make their own opinion out there
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, I think the traditional role of a man in society remain the same, like
Mhm.
as you pointed out, and also women always seek that security, that
Mhm.
love that the men can provide,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
I
Women
think
date up. Women date up, men date down.
that's another
Yeah.
subject that we can open it up to the floor. But and also, I was gonna mention that women seeking that security
Mhm.
in a relationship seems to, like you say, date up,
Mhm.
having that guy that can provide everything for her,
Right. But
and
okay, so here's the thing, right? I like most of the people who watch the channels, we tend to have a certain understanding of how the world works, right? And how society is currently viewing men and so forth. And when I say this about women dating up, men dating down, I'm not saying this as a demeaning thing. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just the reality of it. What woman who is a millionaire is looking at the guy at McDonald's who's flipping fries in the back saying, "I'm going to," right. See, you're laughing because I'm right on this one. What that's going? Hey, I'm going to take him out of McDonald's and we're going to build a life together off of my millions, and I'm going to make sure that he is successful no matter what he does. Maybe one out of a million. You know what I mean? So, but when you look at it from the roles are reversed, a guy will walk into McDonald's, see a girl behind the counter, and be like, "Hey, I'm gonna marry her." And from that point on, she'll be set for life. So I'm not saying it to be demeaning. It's just those are facts. Those are the facts. We can argue it all day, but the facts is that's what it is. Women date up for status. Men, we make our way in the world, and based off of who we're sleeping with, our status comes from what I have, and I also have the woman that every guy wants, right? So I walk into a room and no one has slept with the woman that I have. That gives me some type of status. The woman dating up, right? She's dating a millionaire. When she goes back to her high school reunion, guess what she's talking about? She's not talking about what she did 30 years ago. She's talking about how much a guy makes. So her status is that way. And not to take away from what she does on her regular basis, because hell, I'm a single parent. It's a lot to come along with being a stay at home anything, right? However, most women would prefer to stay at home than to have a career. It's just the reality of
Good point, brother. Very good conversation.
it.
Um,
Thank you.
let's move on to the second subject of the day.
Okay,
All right. So the question is, does racism exist outside of America?
most definitely.
Can you
Um,
elaborate?
oh yeah, yeah. So racism is a systemic problem, and it's a global issue as well. Most people in the West, right, America in particular, think that only America deals with a racial issue, and that's false. For anyone who thinks that it is only confined to America or Great Britain, you're totally incorrect. The problem, and I always tell people this, the if you really want to look at how race is viewed on a global scale, just look at people who look like me and you, right? We're not given a nationality or a ethnicity. We're given a color, right? So what I mean by that is people go, "Well, you're black." No, no, no. What race am I? You're black, right? If you look at every other race on books, you have Asian, you have Pacific Island, you have Native American, you have Caucasian, and because most Caucasians go, well, people call us white all the time, we don't care, but you have a race that you can identify with. The fact that people identify our race as black, as a color, that's a problem, and it's racism is so systemic and embedded, excuse me, embedded into our culture that we don't even pay attention to that very thing right there. So the fact that you don't even identify me as a race, you identify me as a color, tells me a lot about how the world views us.
But what is a race though? A
What
race
race
is
are
not a
we?
color.
So
Is race not a color?
is
Because you're
no,
saying that
because
if you
colorism
call me,
itself is racist, right? Colorism itself is another form of
so
racism.
what? How will you identify me as a man? Like, so let's say, for example, you trying to describe me. You're
Mhm,
looking for me. We will go to a party and there's like a bunch of people, big crowd,
mhm.
or I'm looking for this guy. How would you describe me? Will
Okay,
you not give that? Oh, is he
a
black,
description.
tall guy, or
So
whatever?
so once again, right? Because we don't have a race, we instantly identify with color, right? So let's look at this in this way. You have a white guy, an Asian guy, and a black guy walking to a party, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So we walk in, we go, hey, tell me the people you came with. First thing you're gonna say is I came with the tall, skinny white guy, I came with the short Asian guy, and I came with the tall black guy. Describe the black guy, right? Okay. He has an accent. He's dressed a certain way. Yada yada. Describe the white guy. Oh, see how it just switched. Oh, you see what I mean. And so because we are because that is the way society has raised not only us in America but the world, we instantly cling to that. We instantly cling to the stereotypes of things that we are not. So most people, right?
Mm-hmm,
So my mother's parents are Native American, right?
mm-hmm.
However, I'm dark as just any other person on the face of the earth, right? So the first thing that people ask me is, well, you have to be mixed with something. And I go, why? Why do I have to be mixed with something? Like, is it because the way I talk? Is it because I might have a bit of an education? What defines as I have to be mixed with something? I'm just as dark as everybody else. Why do I have to be mixed with something? And most of the reason being is because we are looked at
So
as inferior.
they're saying that you have to be mixed with something because they know that the parents of your your grandparents were Native American,
No,
or
without even
because
no, no, no. I'm using
they
that.
just
I'm throwing
think
that out
that
there to
like
say
like
that
your persona is reflecting that you have to be mixed with something.
right. It's more so my demeanor and the way I talk. Right. So based off of the stereotypes on black people in the Western world, we're we're ignorant. We don't know how to articulate. We don't have a proper education.
That's the stereotype they
We
have of black people.
Yeah. Like I have like and it's just this isn't just from my point of view. I have literally sat down with people from all over the world and talked to them about how they view black people in the Western world, and they all tell me the same thing. The first point of view we get is from there was a show out what is it, Bad Girls Club, and then there was the Love and Hip Hop that was going on, and they said that those are the first images that they see of us, and then so as a child they grow up thinking that that is how we are. So the moment they interact with us, that's how they feel. They feel that we have to be that way, and the moment we don't act like that, they go, "Oh, you can't be black."
Okay, so let me give you my point of view. I totally agree with you on the um, fact that racism exists all around the world.
Mhm.
Everywhere there is different race, or should I say races? Was the plural the word
Oh,
race?
yeah, racist.
Races. So okay, so anywhere there is two different race, like two different tones of colors, I think there is some type of give and take
Hmm.
and social relationship that may lead into discrimination that may be
Right.
considered as racism.
Well,
Right,
here's the
coming
thing.
from Africa. All right,
Right.
let me give you my perspective. Coming
Okay.
from Africa, I'm from Africa, from Cameroon, as I told you before.
Hmm.
So, the word black
Hmm.
in my culture doesn't exist. We
Hmm.
all the same,
Right.
right? So there is no such a thing. Oh, this guy is black and this guy is such and such,
Hmm.
right? Um, but coming here into United States, that's when I realized that the way that you look, the color tone that you wear,
Hmm.
is a big um how can I say that? I don't want to say use the word issue, but
Factor.
is a big factor.
Yeah.
There we go. That's the word. Is a big factor, right?
Hmm.
So because it leads to in giving the history of racism in
Hmm.
America,
Right.
slavery, and what led after slavery. You have the Jim Crow,
Right.
the
The red line. Yeah.
segregation,
Hmm.
redlining, the war on drug,
Hmm.
mass incarceration, and all that. So the racism here has a big undertone where everybody is pretty much impacted by it.
Right.
But it doesn't alleviate the fact that anywhere else in the world there is racism.
Yeah.
There is racism. I can take you the
Well, let's
example
look at
of
the apartheid in South
of
Africa.
South Africa.
Yeah,
That's what I
that
was just
was.
going to bring up. From 1948 to 1990, it was made
Mhm.
unlawful. It was in the book on the law
Mhm.
that black people in South Africa, they were considered um, minority, even though they were
Majority.
the majority of the population in South Africa.
Mhm.
And it was made unlawful for them to like hang out in nice places, beaches, go out to like they can have like nice neighborhood and such and such and such.
Mhm.
So and you can take everywhere else: Argentina, Brazil, India, France, England. All those places have some type of racism or segregation,
Yeah.
right? So I totally agree on you on that with you on that term.
Mhm.
But why when the only thing that I would want to understand is during your explanation you say that okay, when you see a black guy, somebody that look like me and you, the first thing that come to mind is, oh, he's black, he's color. That's the first thing that jumping into your head. Do you think some of us uh, depend on based on our behavior and the way that we portray ourselves
Mhm.
make allow people to define us with the color, that identity they can throw to us based on the fact that the way that we behave
You saying, do I think that our behavior sometimes influences the stereotypes that come with them?
influence. There we go. That's the
Uh,
that's
so
a better way to frame the question.
so yes, um, some of the things that we do does enhance the stereotypes that come along. However, we can't forget that the stereotypes came first. So we didn't, before we had access to social media platforms such as this and things, right? We in this country, and also in other countries, were not allowed to interact with the Caucasian race, right? On a global scale. We were banned from it. We was restricted. We was considered less of a person. So because we didn't have access to these things, we were already given these labels. Now, what ended up happening is over time, right? some of us began saying, well, if that's how they're going to treat us, I'm going to act that way. But that doesn't have anything to do with us as a whole, as a people. Because just because one person acts up, don't mean everyone is bad. And what ends up happening is we tend to get a broad, uh, stereotype. So most people go, "Oh well, all black people kill other black people," right? Just the very term of black on black crime is very racist because crime doesn't come from race; it comes from proximity. So if I live next to 75 other white people, is it a hate crime if I kill another white person? No, I just that's the proximity I live in. So if I'm Asian and I live amongst 75 Asians and I kill an Asian person, is that Asian on Asian crime? No, it's proximity. So why is it when it comes to people that look like me that it goes, well, that's black on black crime? That is a very racist thing
To
to
say,
label
yeah.
us with. So most of the stereotypes that come along with racism, um, they came before we were able to be on all these YouTubes and World Star and so forth. And then if you go back and you look at most of the shows that had people of color on them, it was positive. Like before a certain point in like I want to say about 92 to 93, everything was positive. We weren't we like if you look at the Jeffersons was about a guy who was a black guy, a black woman who built a business up, worked their way up on into the high rises at the east side, right? If you look at the what is it with JJ Walker, I can't think of the name of it. I watch it all the time, but I can't think of the name of it now. That show itself was based out of Chicago, and it was about a black family who was working their way, trying to make ends meet while
Hmm.
surviving in the projects amongst other black people, right? And then you move forward to the '90s, the late '80s, early '90s. You had shows such as the Cosby Show, Different World. You had what was the other one? The spin-offs. You had Martin. You had so you had a
Steve.
yeah, you had a lot of black positive shows on air. And
Hmm.
then you move into the late 90s, going into the early 2000s. And now everything you see us in, every walk of life, it's us fighting, it's us shooting, it's us killing. Every role, the only, like, look, I know there's a joke out, but Denzel didn't get an Oscar until he was a bad guy. You know what I mean? So, like, what does that tell you? It tells you that the people in charge of the narrative that's being pushed about our people have a very one-sided view on how they want the rest of the world to view us. Hence the systemic side of racism. Because I can have a biased opinion about someone, right? Going back to the two people looking at each other and going, "Hey, man," and all I see is color. So I can
Hmm.
have a biased opinion about another person, right? That looks like me or don't look like me. But until I am able to affect them generational, I don't have race. It's not racism because I can't affect I can't affect the way someone eats. You know what I mean? Like me affecting their generation and putting restraints on how they feed their families. You know what I mean? For generation, that is a problem. That is a systemic problem, and that alone tells you the difference between being biased and racist. You know what I mean? Like when I go across the ocean and I'm in another country, and the first thing that someone tells me is your kind can't come in here, and it's because of my color. That's racism.
Have you experienced that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been places where they go, "Hey, black people are not welcome here." Yeah, but because I'm from America, and because I've been South in the South of in America, oh yeah, yeah. Hey, no problem, bro. I that this your restaurant. As a matter of fact, thanks for telling me. I want people to be upfront with their racism. That way, whenever I go somewhere, I'm not sitting at somebody's counter eating and they in the back spitting in my food. I don't need to sit at their counter. Hey, as a matter of fact, I would say the very fact that we started integrating with other races is what led to the downfall of us in this country. Because the moment we start trying to integrate with other people's culture, right? Us going to other people's hospitals, us going to other people's restaurants, it was a decline in our own communities having stock in our own communities. There, our restaurants started to decline. Like if you look at it right now, the major institutions that we do not have, we don't have schools, we don't have educate, we don't have hospitals, we don't have, we barely have any black-owned businesses in our own neighborhood. That's the whole term where everything is gentrified now. Why is it gentrified? Because we don't own shit. So if we don't own the things that we need in order for us to strive to thrive, then what else could it be? If you tell me, hey, I'm going to charge you $275,000 for a home, but I'm going to charge them 125, well, what would you call it? And it's based off the color of my skin. I mean, anyone who turns on the internet talking about anything when it comes to real estate, you can see all the people that tell you, "Hey, make sure you take all your photos down." Why do we have to tell ourselves that? Why do we have to go into our own home, remove all our photos in order to sell our home at the same market value as someone else? That's insane.
Okay, so you unpack a lot of stuff. Um,
Fact.
that was very long answer
Yeah.
to the question and the debate that we have on our hand. So I wanted to ask you a question. So there
Okay.
are a narrative out there that there is no other place in the world where black people have thrived as they did in United States. So if I talk to, let's say, my cousin back in Africa,
Mhm.
and he tells me, "Oh, what are you guys complaining about? You guys are the richest black people on the face of the earth." Like, what do you say to that?
So I would say that the media is pushing a narrative to say that. However, when you go into the neighborhoods, you see otherwise, right? So if I'm afar looking across the pond and I see out of the on 100% scale that 30% of African Americans are billionaires, right? If I see that in my mind, I'm going, oh, they get money over there. If I look at it and I go, 50% are millionaires, I go, oh, they get money over there. And then you have a quote unquote a middle class, and everybody in that middle class is making 50 to 75,000 a year. To me, on a chart, it looked like people are getting money. But when you come over here and you actually are interacting, you see it's 1 out of 50 that's a billionaire. 1 out of 750 is a millionaire. You know what I mean? When the numbers start really getting broken down, and then in poverty, you have, let's say you have 50% of Black America in poverty, you realize, hey man, we're not getting no money. Something is going on to where the money is restricted. And I think that's what it is because the rest of the world is saying, look at Jay-Z, look at Beyonce,
Look at LeBron.
look at LeBron, right? So what you're saying is if you really want to make money, you have to be this type of entertainer. You have to push a certain thing. You have to do a certain thing. But how many athletes do we really have that are of color? Right? When you really break down those numbers, it's not a lot. And then on top of it, how many, once they are done with that contract, have money after? Because say you make a contract, right? Say you get a contract where it's you're signed for 50 million for the first 4 years. After that first 4 years, how much money do they have? How many shows have we seen where it's like, hey man, these dudes are broke? How many athletes, how many rappers, how many people in the industry are broke? How many times have we heard someone coming forward going, bro, they taking all my money. I don't get no royalties. Look at all the child. Look at everyone from the 80s and back. Or I even say the 90s. Look at everyone that was an actor from the 90s back. How many of them actually still have money? So on a larger scale, it looks as and it appears as if people are getting money and they're getting to it, but in reality, they aren't. There are a lot more people in poverty than there are millionaires. Ask the women. Hell, if you want to know, really want to know who's getting money, ask the women. I'm serious. Women are chasing 1% of the population. Crazy, right? Women are chasing after 1% of the population. So that is 1% on a global scale that is getting money. How many out of that 1% do you think are black? You know what I mean? So when we really break down what's really going on in our neighborhoods and in our countries, plural, we start to realize where we are being affected and what we are not affecting. Like when you look in America, how many people actually own a school? How many people actually own a hospital? Who owns these schools? Who owns these hospitals? How many people actually own homes? It's few and far between, especially in this day and age. If you're making 30 some thousand dollars, right? And it's just statistics. If you make $30,000, how can you afford a house that's 150,000? You can't, unless you come from someone who has a nice line of credit. You can't. So when you look at it, most people live in poverty.
Yeah, that's a very good take to
But
push back on that narrative of
but here's the thing, and it's nothing to, it's nothing against anyone who doesn't know this, because a lot of people don't. Like I say, on the surface it looks beautiful, but when you start to peel back that onion and you start to dig into them numbers, you go, Jesus Christ, we are struggling. You know what I mean? Like, as a whole, we are struggling.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's a very interesting take on the subject. As we see, uh, mm, like I said, I always go back to where I come from in
Mhm.
Africa. So, um, looking, being out, looking outside, looking in,
Mhm.
um, we see that African American are striving.
Mhm.
They made a lot of progress, even though there is still a racism, segregation, and stereotype, and all type of like you know um, what was the word, discrimination,
Okay.
discrimination toward the black community. Um, but when we look uh, like around the world, right?
Right.
Around the world, like if you see what community has made the most progress as far as black people
Right.
living with, because we can take example of where, like Australia, right?
Hmm.
Australia, we had the Aborigines, right?
Yeah.
They was decimated by
Yeah.
the um, the 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 colonists,
Hmm.
when they came to Australia, they invaded Australia. And you can take like in South America, for example, Argentina. There is history of um, like wiping out, like the black race in Argentina. There are examples everywhere around the world. So racism exists everywhere in the world. That's a fact. But when we it comes to what are the people, as far as black people, that have made the most progress
Hmm.
around the world, meaning black that live with other races like Caucasian, Asian, and other races. The only race that people turn to is African American in
Hmm.
America. What do
Yeah.
you say?
No, so I totally agree. And I was watching something earlier, and a guy was speaking on this. This not my words, and I'm gonna paraphrase it, but basically what he was talking about was, without the voice of the people in America who are quote unquote African Americans, right? Without their voice and without them speaking up, a lot of other minority groups would not have been able to get the rights that they deserve, because out of their mouth, not mine, he said that they do not speak up. They are afraid to say something. So until we as a people had started to speak out and push back, um, they did not feel like they had a voice. And so they are admitting that, yes, they latch on to our voice in order to push the civil rights agenda. Because what it boils down to is, and not to spend too much time on this. I know you got other questions you wanted to ask, but what it boils down to is this, right? As a race of people, if how can I say this? As a race of people, if we did not fight for our basic human rights, where would we be now? And even though today we are still fighting for our basic human rights, right? When you really think about that, that sounds crazy, but that's what it is. Like, Malcolm X took to the UN to sue America based off of what they were doing to us as a people because of our human rights were being violated. You know what I mean? Most people are just fighting for a bill. Most people are like, "Hey, I need something to bring down my taxes." As a people, we are fighting for our basic human rights, and that is a huge problem because how many leaders have we watched get murdered over our basic human rights? Like the basic human right to just be as a person. Most people take that for granted. You know what I mean? As a person of color, I have to tell my son, hey, when you do this, you don't get the same leeway. I tell my daughters, hey, when you out and about, you have to move a certain way. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like most races do not have to even have that talk with their children. That's scary, man, that you have to sit down and tell your children, hey, man, when they leave out the house, hey, make sure that you do this, that, and the third, or you might not make it home. And it's not like you are this isn't this isn't like when I was growing up in Chicago when my mother not only had to talk to me about the police and racism and everything else, and though she had to talk to me about gangs. This isn't
Hmm.
a gang situation because everybody got somebody in their neighborhood that they're at odds with, right? That's the whole what we was talking about, like being at odds with people. You can be at odds with someone, but when you're talking about removing me from the face of the earth because of the color of my skin, that's a problem. Just because I want my basic human rights to live, like you don't even want me to live. You just so you know what I mean. Like because what it boils down to is, and I tell people this. I've done a lot of research on what's going on. I can date it all the way back to about 1512. Anything before 1512, there's no history of what happened to us. So at about 1512, we go, hey, we got into it with the Portuguese. We know that the Portuguese backdoored one of the kings um, that was at he was going through a civil war, and then from there, our history is just make believe, right? So from what I know is that not everybody who was enslaved, I would say the majority of people who was enslaved did not come from Africa. Not to say that they wasn't Africans, but they did not come from Africa. So if our history is broken, pieced together from everybody, and everybody else is telling us our story, that's why it's been so easy to keep racism alive. Because as a people, we don't know what the fuck we're talking about. And if you don't know, I mean, like, imagine if you were sitting down trying to lead someone but you didn't know how to lead them. They would be like, hey, bro, I'm good. I'm gonna go check out somebody else. And that's how it feels every time someone steps forth. And when they do, and then when we do have a leader who steps forth and they know what they're talking about and they're preaching that stuff and they're telling us, hey, the right things that we need to do, what happens? They die. Hell, we got a list of them that are no longer here. So
Yeah, great discussion, and a lot of every time you answer a question, there is it is so loaded that we can unpack it and get into a rabbit hole. You mentioned something about most of enslaved people didn't come from Africa. Is
mhm,
did I understand that correctly?
correct.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So let's look at it from a business perspective, right? If me and you take a boat from one half of the world to the other half, right? And we bring livestock, not people. At this point, we're just traveling with livestock. There's a couple of crew members, and we lose half of that livestock, and we lose out of six people, we lose three. Why would I bring the majority of the things that I need to make the country function? Why would I bring a bunch of people from another side of the world, knowing based off of those numbers that I'm going to lose the majority of them? That's a terrible business decision when there's already people here. We know for a fact that there were people here from the other side of the world, from Africa. We know that. There's evidence. There's no denying it. We know for a fact that there were people here. So, what happened to the people that was originally here? They were enslaved. Like it only makes sense. So you mean to tell me that we just completely wiped out everyone that was here and then brought over a new bunch of people? Like, that don't make no sense. From a business perspective, that doesn't make sense. Even from a narrative perspective, like if I am invading your country, right? Why would I go invade someone else's country and bring them over and I haven't conquered you yet? What would you do to my supplies? So from a conquering perspective, anytime you look at like Alexander the Great and all those guys, right? They conquered and then brought their people. Because I can't bring my women and children into a place that's unsafe for them. Going back to the original thing about men protect, protect and provide. How can I protect and provide if the people I'm if the country I'm entering is unconquered? So the very first thing you have to do is you have to conquer the land that you enter. And where did they first hit? Maryland, Virginia, and those around that tip, right on the East Coast, and then they pushed west, all the way west, so far west that they began to tell. And if you talk to Spanish people from Mexico, right, and they don't even like being called Spanish people, just their word, not mine, they'll tell you that's not who we are. That is someone else's information that is being pushed to us. Like America has rewritten on a global scale history. History is written by the conquerors. It's, you know what I mean. It's not like, hey, I'm saying this because I just come up with some crazy conspiracy theory. It's like well documented. Like America has. Here's the thing, right? America and the rest of the world has become so comfortable with telling the truth that they don't even hide it no more. They just go, yeah, we did it. You know what I mean? Like it's true. Like any like that's what's so messed up about it is because it's just like, yeah, we did it. Like, what are you gonna do about it? Like, if there's literally places in America today that is still segregated, like you go to them. This place is called like sundown towns, where after the sun you can't be in them because you might not come out alive. How crazy does that sound? Like, and people are just like, yeah, that's America. like, like what? Like, yeah, don't go there after the sun. Once the sun go down, you better be out of there. What? There was a huge news report the other day where a guy was like taking some like a UPS worker or something like that was delivering a package, and the company had to like apologize because his boss or manager or something was like, hey man, you can't go over there. The guy requested a white guy instead.
Hmm.
Like that's what, like since 2023 and we are still fighting Nazis. Like what the hell are we doing? So
Yeah.
I go, yeah, racism, yeah, of course it's global.
Yeah, it's global. It's definitely global. Um, I tell you what,
Hmm?
there's one thing that you say that could make you famous
Oh, don't do that.
by suggesting that uh, most enslaved people when coming from Africa. That's a new theory that this is the first time I ever heard that. I mean, you probably have some basis on why you say that, but let's move on to the next subject
Okay.
and let's talk about behaviors, human behaviors. Um, the question here is if you could change multiple things about your behavior, what would be the first one
Mm.
and why would it be that one?
You said what would be the first one, and I didn't hear the second part.
So why
Why?
why will be the first pick that you will say, oh, I want to change this in my life?
Oh, okay.
What would that be, that first one that you pick?
If I could change something about my behavior, what would it be? Um, you
Yep.
know what? I have a huge problem where if I see something, I cannot unsee it. Um, and what I mean is like right is right, wrong is wrong, right? If I see it and it's wrong, I don't care who it is. I'm stepping in. And a lot of people, I think the problem is a lot of people have put monetary gain over doing the right thing. Um, I can't do that. I would. I'm like, I got it. I got to feed my family. I got to make ends meet to take care of the kids that I have. Um, However, right is right and wrong is wrong. If I see something, whether it's going to affect me or not, I have to say something because the the thing that I've noticed is the reason we are in the state that we are in now, as a society, is because we have become too comfortable with allowing people to just do it and turn a blind eye. Like this, there should be no reason why, and I know I just said this, but there should be no reason why in this day and age we are still fighting for a basic human rights? Where are the people who are so uncomfortable with how we live that they are just like, you know what, everything stops until we fix this? It's none. I have yet to, I've been here for damn near 40 years on this earth. I have not seen anybody get to the point where they are so tired of the the stuff that we go through as a people that they go, you know what, man, we got to stop this and make it better. Everyone is just comfortable with how it is, and they just the very saying it is what it is. It's so detrimental. So my thing is being unable to unsee the wrongs of the world. Like I, you know, and I wouldn't change it. I know you asked for like would I change it, but I wouldn't change it. I love that. I love that about me. Because once I see it, I'm locked onto it, and I'm like, hey man, we can fix this. Like I don't care, you know, what no one else thinks. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And as long as I'm doing the right thing, hey man, whatever. You know, the creator got me. That's how I treat
I tell you what, that's a good start right there
it.
because you already because what do they say? The first thing is to realize that you have a problem, right?
Mm,
So when you realize that okay, this is what the world has as a problem,
mm,
and you're doing something for it, like this platform right here, you
mm.
expressing um, your how you say that? What's the word? You expressing the fact that you go against those type of behavior in society
Mm.
is already a start. Maybe it can touch somebody out there,
Yeah,
and they can, you know, strive for a better world,
yeah.
right?
Because I mean, like let's be honest. We all just want everybody want the same thing. Everybody wants their families to be okay. You know what I mean? Like I think that we got at some point, right? If you remove all the fancy shit from the world, all the Lamborghinis, the mansions, and all that stuff, at our core, all we want is for our children to be okay. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to watch people go through that. But there are some individuals who are just okay with that, and I'm not okay with that. You know what I mean? Like the very fact that you have people who are okay with people not having their basic needs, like food, shelter, water, things like that. I'm not okay with that. And no matter what, like if I could, I would change all that in an instant. So yeah, man.
That's very deep, and it looked like you one of those leaders. Um,
Ah man,
they asked me
thank
a
you.
question like this. My answer will be very simple. I will try to never had picked up a freaking cigarette. But you're looking at the world as a bro. You're looking at a bigger picture. That's what make us different. That make you who you are, and want to make you want to have this platform to talk about stuff like this. And I thank you for the time that
Yeah,
you've given me and the opportunity to share this moment with you.
yeah, yeah. No,
What's
bro.
your last word for the
So, uh, I would say thanks for the interview. It's different to be on the other side of the receiving questions.
what is your last word for the audience?
Uh, Last word for the audience. I would say, first off, thank you for doing this. Um, I would say when people tell you you can't do something, don't listen to them. When people tell you that it's too much for them, that should give you the fuel to keep going. The reason being is because people put their fears onto us and try to make their fears become ours. So I tell people, it's your life. No one can tell you that you effed up your life. Only you know when you've gone too far or need to turn around and go the opposite way in your life because it's your life. So I always tell people, do what you want, man. As long as you're not doing anything that's detrimental to yourself, Who cares what other people think? At the end of the day, it's your life. You came here by yourself. You're gonna leave here by yourself. Just enjoy it. So yeah, man. So also hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment down in the comment section. Um,
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you for this opportunity and for sharing this platform with me. Everybody be blessed out there.
yeah, and remember, hey, so Ezekiel,
Ezekiel.
Ezekiel is going to be starting his own podcast soon. So make sure you support him. And bro, if you need me anything, just let me know. I will gladly come sit on your thing and talk. I love to
Of course.
communicate. But
Of
until
course.
next time, catch you guys later.
All right,
Peace.
thank you, brother.
Yeah.